courtroom doors opened precisely at 10 o'clock on a quiet Tuesday morning in Providence. The room settled into a practiced stillness as Miss Reyes, the court clerk, called everyone to rise. Judge Frank Caprio entered without ceremony, took his seat, and adjusted the stack of files before him. There was nothing theatrical about the moment, just the steady rhythm of a courtroom that had seen thousands of cases pass through its doors. "Next case," the judge said. Miss Reyes read clearly from the docket. Case 2025 TR 9826, The City versus Ethan Ward. A young man stepped forward. Ethan Ward was 23, well-groomed, wearing a tailored jacket that cost more than many people's monthly rent. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded traffic citation, glanced at it with obvious irritation, and tossed it onto the bench as if it were spare change handed to a valet. "Here," he said casually. "My dad pays your salary. Let's make this quick." The room froze. Officer D'Angelo, standing near the door, shifted his stance. Miss Reyes stopped typing mid-keystroke. Two spectators in the back exchanged stunned looks. Judge Caprio didn't raise his voice. He didn't react at all, at least not outwardly. "Pick that up," the judge said calmly. Ethan blinked. "Excuse me?" Caprio replied. "Pick it up and hand it to the clerk properly." Ethan stared at him. Seconds stretched. 3, 5, 7. "Perhaps your father will pay for your lesson too," the judge said quietly. "Money can buy cars, Mr. Ward. It can't buy character." Ethan hesitated, then bent down, retrieved the paper, and placed it on the clerk's desk without a word. His jaw tightened. His confidence cracked, but didn't fully break. Miss Reyes cleared her throat and read the charges. Reckless driving in congested traffic, verbal harassment of another driver, disorderly conduct in court. Judge Caprio looked up. "Mr. Ward, do you have legal representation?" A woman in a navy suit stood. "Olivia Tran, defense counsel, Your Honor. Is your client prepared to address the charges?" "Yes," she said smoothly. "We're prepared to pay all applicable fines today and resolve this matter." Caprio set his pen down. "Courtrooms don't take tips, Miss Tran. We'll review the evidence. Sit down." She hesitated, then complied. The judge flipped through the file. A Mercedes. Ward received a traffic warning 6 months ago for aggressive lane changes near the Thayer Street exit. No citation issued. Officer discretion. He looked up. "Do you remember that stop?" Ethan shrugged. "It was nothing." "So you learned nothing," the judge said, closing the folder. "The warning isn't punishment today, but it establishes a pattern." He leaned back. "Tell me what happened on October 22nd. Ethan shifted. "Traffic was bad. Some old guy in a beat-up Honda cut me off. I honked, he brake-checked me. So I went around him and taught him a lesson." "Taught him a lesson?" Judge Caprio asked. "Explain." "I got in front of him and slowed down," Ethan said. "Let him know he can't drive like that." "You escalated," the judge replied. "What happened next?" "He pulled over. I kept driving. Then a cop stopped me." Judge Caprio glanced at a report. "Officer Vega notes you shouted something before leaving." "What did you say?" Ethan looked at his attorney. She gave a small nod. "I might have said, learn to drive, Grandpa." Judge Caprio lifted a witness statement. "The other driver, Henry Cole, is 78. A retired veteran. He states you mocked him and told him to retire his car." Ethan said nothing. Officer Rafael Vega was called to the stand, calm and precise. He described seeing Ethan's Audi cut in front of the Honda, slow deliberately, then pull alongside while the driver shouted before speeding off. "What was the defendant's demeanor?" Judge Caprio asked. "Dismissive," Officer Vega said. "He said he was teaching the other driver a lesson. He laughed when I explained the violations." Body camera audio played. Ethan's voice filled the courtroom, sharp, mocking, careless. Judge Caprio let the silence linger. "Words matter, Mr. Ward," he said. "They reveal character." Security footage followed. Clear, unedited. It showed the Audi cutting off the Honda, braking deliberately, pulling alongside. There was no ambiguity. "Cameras," Judge Caprio reminded the room. "Don't take sides, they take truth." Finally, Miss Reyes read a log of phone calls from Ward Global Holdings legal office requesting dismissal before the hearing. The voicemail played. Polite, professional, presumptive. Looked at Ethan. "Did you expect your father to make this go away?" Ethan didn't answer. Influence arrived before remorse. The judge said softly. The courtroom remained silent as the weight of that truth settled in. The timeline told its own story, and Judge Caprio made sure everyone in the courtroom saw it. October 26th and 10:08 a.m. the traffic incident, the 12 a.m. the stop initiated, Henna 1 a.m. the citation issued. Then came what followed. October 23, 17 a.m. The first call from Ward Holdings Legal, October 24, 11:42 a.m. A second call, October 24, 3:09 p.m. A voicemail requesting dismissal before the case could even be heard. Judge Caprio set the paper down and looked up. That sequence matters, he said calmly, because it shows what came before accountability. He reached for another document. Miss Reyes, there's also a screenshot submitted by Officer Vega. A text message visible on the defendant's phone during the traffic stop. The defendant gave verbal consent for it to be photographed. Please read it into the record. Miss Reyes adjusted her glasses. Text message sent from Ethan Ward to a contact labeled Marcus. Timestamp October 22nd, 10:37 a.m. Message reads that some old vet blocked me on Main. Gave him a lecture. Got pulled over, but Dad's team will fix it. All good. Ethan's jaw tightened. Judge Caprio leaned forward. Let me map this for you, Mr. Ward. The incident occurs at 10:09. You're stopped at 10:12. The citation is issued at 131. 6 minutes later, you're texting a friend with confidence that your father's legal team will fix it. By the next morning, the calls begin. I didn't ask him to, Ethan said quickly. You didn't have to, the judge replied. You told your friend not to worry because your father would handle it. That's not confidence in your innocence. That's confidence in intervention. Defense counsel stood. Your Honor, my client is not responsible for actions taken by his father's office without his direct instruction. The text shows expectation. Judge Caprio said evenly. The calls confirm for a pattern is established. Another chart appeared on the monitor, clean and unforgiven. And 109 a.m.
Incident 12 a.m.
Stop Hyundai 31A. 10:37 a.m. Dad's team will fix it next day. First call next day. Second call next day. Voicemail requesting dismissal. Miss Tran stood again. Given missed it. Ward's father's prominence in the business community. We respectfully request discretion. Public exposure could create unnecessary complications for the family and business interests. Judge Caprio set his pen down. Sunlight keeps records honest, he said. This case stays public. If conduct can't survive scrutiny, the problem is the conduct, not the scrutiny. He turned back to Ethan. I'm going to ask you 3 yes or no questions. The room went still. Did you drive recklessly by cutting off Henry Cole's vehicle and deliberately slowing to block him? Ethan hesitated. Yes. Did you verbally harass Mr. Cole by calling him Grandpa Traffic and telling him to retire his car? Yes. Did you throw your citation at this bench and tell me your father pays my salary? 5 seconds passed. Then 7, then 12. Yes. Those 12 seconds marked the moment entitlement finally collapsed under the weight of truth. Judge Caprio leaned back. Here's something I've noticed, Mr. Ward. When you boast, you're 23, old enough to mock a veteran, dismiss an officer, and disrespect a court. But when you're asked to explain yourself, you're suddenly 13. I was mad. I was frustrated. I didn't mean it. He paused. You're 23 when you brag, 13 when you apologize. Pick one. Ethan stared at the floor. Which one are you today? 23, Ethan said quietly. Then answer like it. Judge Caprio opened his bench book. The evidence is overwhelming and consistent. Body camera audio confirms your dismissive statements. Security footage confirms reckless driving, deliberate blocking, and verbal confrontation. Your text confirms expectation of parental intervention. The call log confirms attempted influence. Your own admissions confirm every charge. He looked up. This court does not weigh cases based on wealth or influence. Arrogance is a luxury the law does not accept. The base fines totaled $980. Then Judge Caprio continued. I'm suspending $400 of that amount, he said, contingent on full completion of a restorative accountability plan. Complete it with integrity, and that portion is waived. Fail and the full amount is reinstated. Ethan looked up. First, the judge said, you will deliver a personal apology to Henry Cole, in person. If he agrees, no attorneys, no intermediaries. If he declines, you will write it and this court will confirm receipt. Second, you will complete 200 hours of community service with the city's Veteran Support Office. No press, no branding, just work. Third, you will deliver 3 supervised talks to young drivers about respect on the road. Fourth, you will write and produce a short film titled Respect on the Road. No sponsors, no family names, just truth. Fifth, you will submit a 1,000-word reflection titled Status Can't Signal Kindness. He looked directly at Ethan. Mercy isn't soft. It's strategic. Don't waste it. 6 weeks later, on a cold Monday morning, Ethan Ward walked into the City Veterans Support Office at exactly 8 a.m. No driver, no entourage, just jeans, a plain sweatshirt, and a clipboard placed in his hands by a retired Army sergeant named Carol Jennings. You'll answer phones, she said. File paperwork. No shortcuts. Yes, ma'am, Ethan said. The logbook recorded the first entry. Ethan Ward, 8 hours. Answered phones. Scheduled 3 veteran transport appointments. For the first time, nothing was fixed for him. And that was the point. By the 3rd week, the log entries began to change. Polite. On time. Week 3, Ethan Ward, 16 hours total. Assisted with benefits navigation for 2 veterans. Asked thoughtful questions about VA processes. By week 7, the entries grew longer. 56 hours total. Helped coordinate Thanksgiving meal delivery to 14 homebound veterans. Stayed 2 extra hours without being asked. At week 12, the tone shifted again. 120 hours total. Led a digital literacy workshop for elderly veterans learning to use VA online portals. Veterans responded well. One comment was underlined. Franklin Morris, a Vietnam veteran, had said, "That young man has patience I didn't expect." Early December brought the moment Ethan had been quietly dreading. On a Tuesday afternoon, he met Henry Cole for the first time since the incident. The court arranged the meeting at a neutral community center. Carol Jennings from the Veterans Support Office sat in as a witness. Ethan stood when Henry entered. Henry was 78, thin, wearing a navy baseball cap and a worn jacket. He walked slowly with a cane. He sat across from Ethan without speaking. "Mr. Cole," Ethan began, "I'm here to apologize for what I did on Main Street. I cut you off. I blocked you. I called you Grandpa Traffic and told you to retire your car. I treated you like you were in my way instead of someone who earned the right to be on that road long before I was born." He swallowed. "You served this country. I mocked you for driving carefully. I was wrong, I'm sorry." Henry studied him for a long moment. "You meant it when you said it?" "Yes, sir." "Why?" "Because I thought I was more important than you," Ethan said. "I didn't see a person, just an obstacle. Working with veterans these past 12 weeks changed that." Henry nodded slowly. "Respect isn't something you give when it's convenient," he said. "It's something you give because people deserve it, especially those who earned it." "Yes." Henry stood and extended his hand. Ethan took it. Carol Jennings wrote in her log, "Apology delivered." December 8th witnessed. Beneath it, she added, "He apologized like a man, not a brand." January brought Ethan's first public service talk. 94 students filled the auditorium at Hope High School. Ethan stepped to the podium without notes. "My name is Ethan Ward," he said. "6 months ago, I cut off an elderly veteran in traffic, mocked him, and threw my citation at a judge. I'm here to tell you what I learned." He told them about Henry Cole, about the courtroom silence, about the 12 seconds it took him to say yes, about 200 hours spent answering phones and scheduling rides. "I thought being in a hurry gave me the right to bully someone off the road," he said. "It doesn't. I thought my last name put me above the rules. It doesn't. Respect on the road isn't optional." A student raised her hand. "Did your dad try to get you out of it?" "Yes," Ethan said. "His legal office called the court. The judge put it on the public record and told me influence arrived before remorse. He was right." 2 more talks followed, Classical High in February, Central High in March. Teachers noted the same thing: he didn't soften the truth. The short film came next. Ethan's first script was rejected within 48 hours. Too vague, not accountable enough. He rewrote it. The second draft was approved. Over 2 weekends, Ethan filmed with 3 other young drivers who had completed diversion programs. They sat in a circle and spoke plainly about mistakes. Ethan narrated his own. "I cut off a 78-year-old veteran because I was in a hurry," he said. "I thought I was teaching him a lesson. I was wrong. He didn't need the lesson. I did." The film ended with Ethan facing the camera. Respect travels faster than any car. Runtime 4 minutes, 18 seconds. On March 28th, Ethan completed his 200th hour. Carol Jennings handed him a certificate and a note. "Ethan," it read, "I've been watching from a distance. You showed up, you listened, you learned. Respect isn't inherited. It's earned. You're earning it, Henry." Ethan folded the note and put it in his wallet. His reflection took 3 days. He typed, deleted, rewrote. Final title: Status Can't Signal Kindness. 1,000 words exactly. 6 months after the original hearing, Ethan returned to court alone. Judge Caprio reviewed the file. All requirements met. Henry Cole's statement was read aloud. "He apologized like a man, not a brand. I forgive him." Judge Caprio looked at Ethan. "What did you learn?" "That wealth doesn't grant permission," Ethan said. "That respect is earned. That I wasn't untouchable, I was unfinished." Judge Caprio signed the order. Suspended, fine waived. Case closed. 3 months later, the first courtroom civility audit was published. 4 incidents, all documented, all corrected. And for the first time, the record showed what accountability looked like when it worked. The reforms took effect quietly at first, then unmistakably. Under Rhode Island's open records laws, footage showing reckless driving or harassment of vulnerable road users became publicly accessible. Within 6 months, emergency response times improved by 11% as drivers learned that cameras did not forget. Behavior changed when accountability became visible. Courtroom conduct training followed. Every first-time defendant under 30 now watched a 10-minute orientation video before proceedings began. It explained decorum, the role of the judge, and the consequences of throwing documents or invoking family influence. Post-training surveys showed 87% of participants demonstrated improved understanding of court procedures. Then came the Veteran Respect Initiative. A 15-minute module was added to Rhode Island's driver education curriculum, emphasizing patience and courtesy toward elderly drivers, particularly veterans. The module included a short film titled Respect on the Road. Instructors reported that students listened differently. Not because the lesson was louder, but because it was honest. The Providence Journal captured it best: from insult to impact. Judge Caprio's restorative sentence sparks statewide reform. 1 year after the hearing, Judge Frank Caprio received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Your Honor, I'm still volunteering at the Veterans Support Office. I'm not required to anymore. I choose to. Last month, Henry Cole asked if I'd help him teach a digital literacy class. We taught 12 veterans how to use the VA portal. My father's money could have bought me out of that ticket. It couldn't buy the respect I earned over 200 hours of service. Thank you for teaching me the difference. Respectfully, Ethan Ward." Judge Caprio placed the letter in the case file and wrote a single note in his bench book. He threw a ticket and caught a lesson. 2 years later, the Veteran Respect Initiative had been adopted by 17 states. Ethan's film was viewed by more than 300,000 student drivers nationwide. The Providence Veteran Support Office reported a 43% increase in youth volunteers. Many cited Ethan's story. Henry Cole, now 80, continued driving carefully down Main Street. When impatient drivers honked behind him, most now waited. Some recognized the lesson. Others had simply learned it. Officer Rafael Vega was promoted to sergeant. In his first address to new officers, he spoke about the stop on Main Street. "Give people a chance to learn," he said, "but document everything. Truth protects everyone." Carol Jennings framed Ethan's volunteer log on her desk. Beneath it, a handwritten quote: "He apologized like a man, not a brand." When new volunteers arrived, she told them the story. "Service isn't punishment," she said. "It's transformation." Even Ethan's attorney changed. Olivia Tran added a clause to every representation agreement: "Courtrooms don't take tips. If you're guilty, own it. If you learn something, prove it." 6 months after the hearing, Ethan's father issued a statement. "My son learned what my money couldn't teach him, that respect isn't inherited, it's earned." By the 3rd anniversary, Ethan stood before 200 driver education instructors at a statewide conference. He was 26. 3 years ago, he began. "I threw a traffic citation at a judge and told him my father paid his salary. I thought wealth gave me permission to disrespect people. I was wrong." A slide appeared. Security footage of Main and Elm. "This is the moment I bullied a 78-year-old Navy veteran because I was in a hurry." Another slide: the courtroom bench. Judge Caprio gave me a choice: prove I could learn or prove I couldn't. Then a photo of Henry Cole shaking Ethan's hand. He said, "Respect isn't something you give when it's convenient." That changed my life. The final slide showed statewide reforms. "Justice isn't about punishment," Ethan said. "It's about restoration." The room erupted in applause. That evening, Ethan drove to the Veterans Support Office, his usual volunteer night. He parked carefully. Inside, Henry waited. Together, they taught another digital literacy class. As Ethan drove home, he passed Main and Elm. An elderly driver moved carefully through the intersection. Ethan waited, no honk, no rush. 5 years after the hearing, the court honored restorative justice success stories. Judge Caprio was retiring. Ethan spoke. "You didn't punish me," he said. "You restored me. You separated status from conduct. You taught me that justice isn't about who you are, it's about who you choose to become." Judge Caprio nodded once. Respect, after all, still traveled faster than any car. "It's about what you do," Ethan said quietly. "And you taught me that mercy isn't soft." The courtroom was still. No murmurs, no shifting chairs, just silence heavy with understanding. "Thank you," Ethan continued, his voice steady, "for refusing to let my father's money erase my mistakes. Thank you for teaching me that respect travels faster than any car. Thank you for believing I could learn." He stepped back. The room erupted in applause. Judge Frank Caprio rose from the bench, crossed the courtroom, and shook Ethan's hand. "You threw a ticket," the judge said softly, "and you caught a lesson. That's all I ever hoped for." On his final day after 38 years on the bench, Judge Caprio sat alone in chambers reviewing the cases that had shaped his career. He pulled one file from the shelf, case no 2025 TR 98261, and opened it one last time. Inside were the record's body, camera audio, security footage, call logs, text screenshots, compliance calendars, service logs, apology receipts, and reflection essays. He reread Henry Cole's statement. He apologized like a man, not a brand. Officer Vega's note followed. He learned that silence drives better than ego. Carol Jennings's final log entry read simply 200 hours completed. Transformation documented. Then Ethan's reflection essay, status can't signal kindness. At the bottom lay the letter Ethan had written 3 years earlier. "My father's money could have bought me out of that ticket. It couldn't buy the respect I earned over 200 hours of service." Judge Caprio picked up his pen and made one final entry in his bench book. Defendant Ethan Ward. Charges: reckless driving, verbal harassment, courtroom disrespect. Sentence: restorative accountability. Outcome: reformation, not punishment. Influence: documented, not rewarded. Status: separated from conduct. 12 seconds of silence changed a life. Lesson: money can buy cars, not character. Mercy isn't soft, it's strategic. He closed the book, turned off the light, and locked the door for the last time. 10 years later, the case was studied in law schools nationwide as a model of restorative justice. The Veteran Respect Initiative was taught in all 50 states. Respect on the road became required viewing in nearly 90% of driver education programs. Ethan Ward, now 33, served as Director of Community Restorative Programs for the Rhode Island Department of Veterans Affairs. He was married. He had a daughter named Grace. When she asked why he worked with veterans, he told her the truth. "When I was 23, I disrespected a man who served his country for 22 years. A judge taught me that respect isn't inherited, it's earned. I'm still earning it." Henry Cole, now 85, still drove carefully down Main Street. He still wore his Navy baseball cap. Every other Tuesday, Ethan joined him for coffee. They talked about service, sacrifice, and the difference between status and character. "You learned well," Henry once said. "I had a good teacher," Ethan replied. Officer Rafael Vega, now Captain Vega, ran the Providence Police Department's traffic division. On his office wall hung a framed quote from Judge Caprio: "Cameras don't take sides. They take truth." Carol Jennings retired the previous year. At her ceremony, Ethan presented her with a plaque engraved with her own words: "Service isn't punishment, it's transformation." Ethan's father funded the Henry Cole Veterans Resource Center in downtown Providence. At the dedication, he said simply, "My son taught me that the best investment isn't in buildings, it's in the people who teach him humility." Judge Caprio, now retired, spent his days writing about the cases that defined his career. When asked which he remembered most, he always named the same one: the young man who threw a ticket and caught a lesson. 20 years after the hearing, Ethan stood in the same courtroom addressing a group of young defendants in a new restorative justice program. "I stood where you're standing," he told them. "I thought wealth gave me permission to disrespect people. I was wrong. Judge Caprio didn't shame me. He didn't raise his voice. He gave me a choice: learn or don't." He told them about Henry Cole, about the service hours, about the apology, about what happens when accountability meets mercy. "You're here because you made a mistake," he said. "You can minimize it, blame someone else, or expect someone to fix it for you. Or you can own it and turn it into something meaningful." A young woman asked if he ever saw Judge Caprio again. "Every year," Ethan said, smiling. "I bring him the numbers. How many students learned? How many states changed? How many lives followed a different road?" "What does he say?" she asked. "He always says the same thing," Ethan replied. "You caught your lesson. Now help others catch theirs." After the room emptied, Ethan stood alone at the bench. He placed a small note where the judge once sat. "Your Honor, 20 years ago you gave me a choice. I chose to learn. Thank you for believing I could." He turned off the light and closed the door behind him. In the court archives, the file remains, marked Restorative Justice Model Case, ending with Judge Caprio's final handwritten line. "That's all any judge can hope for."